Welcome back to the La 2 Diep RV channel. Today, we will continue following the thrilling and emotional story of James and 2 Diep. Dear viewers, do you remember when James found himself in a difficult situation deep in the forest? And in the end, he saw 2 Diep. But what's interesting here is not the forest itself, but the fact that this encounter will open a new door in their relationship. We have witnessed many ups and downs that James and 2 Diep have gone through during their time apart. But now, the fateful moment has arrived. 2 Diep will meet James again after so many long days. Will her heart still hold the same feelings for James, or has it changed, transformed by the passage of time? This question makes us all eager and excited to see the answer. With every step, 2 Diep's silence is a big question mark. Could she still love James, or has there been a shift in her feelings? Will they be able to overcome the challenges ahead and get closer to each other once again, or will everything remain as faded memories over time? This will be answered in the next part of the story, and we promise to bring you plenty of emotional surprises. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of the thrilling moments in this love story full of challenges. Continue to join us on the La 2 Diep RV channel, where we will explore breathtaking situations, unavoidable conflicts, and deep, genuine emotions together. James and 2 Diep still have a lot to face, and their story will definitely keep you hooked. Thank you for following, and we'll see you in the next video, where we will find the answers to James and Diep's turbulent love story. A sudden encounter occurred, causing everything to change in an instant. James stood silently in front of Lee's house, a police officer and also one of James's closest brothers. Everything seemed quiet, yet James's heart beat fiercely. Before him stood 2 Diep, the girl he had spent countless months, effort, and hope searching for. But what surprised him the most wasn't her sudden appearance, but his own feelings in this moment. James didn't rush toward 2 Diep, even though his heart longed to run to her immediately. He stood there, distant, engulfed in thoughts and mixed emotions. Time seemed to stand still, and everything around him faded away. Only 2 Diep's image remained vivid. He remembered every moment they had shared, the laughter, the smiles, the tears. The feeling of loss had lingered with him throughout the time apart, and now, as she stood before him, he didn't know what to do. For just a moment, James made a decision. He would move toward 2 Diep, though his heart was filled with worry about what might happen. He took each step slowly, as though stepping into a completely different world, where everything could change in the blink of an eye. Then, something unexpected happened, forcing James to stop in his tracks. When he looked into 2 Diep's eyes, he felt something strange. Those eyes, once a beacon of love in his heart, now seemed distant and empty. How could this be? How could there have been such a significant change in such a short time? James couldn't believe his eyes. He moved closer, trying to look at her face more clearly, but it only deepened his confusion. Then, those words came, striking him like a blow to his mind, shattering everything. 2 Diep? James called, his voice thick with emotion. The name felt like a deep ache, a cry full of longing, but it wasn't like before. In response, 2 Diep simply stared at him with unfamiliar eyes, as though he were a complete stranger. 2 Diep? James called again, but this time he felt as though something inside him was breaking apart. The girl before him didn't recognize him. She didn't remember anything about him. His heart tightened, unable to comprehend what was happening. Tu Diep looked at James with a confused expression. She didn't recognize the name he called her. That name no longer belonged to her. "My name is Hoa," she said, her eyes shimmering with confusion, but still strangely distant. Her words hit James like a heavy blow. He froze. Everything around him seemed to collapse in an instant. He couldn't believe it. Had Tu Diep really forgotten him? She no longer remembered the memories they shared, the intimate conversations, the time they had spent together. Now, everything felt like an immense, unreachable void. The sky above seemed to crash down. All the things James had hoped for, all the things he had yearned for, were now replaced by silence and an indescribable emptiness. He didn't know what to do next, or what to say to the girl he had lost, the girl who had once been such an essential part of his life. Though his heart was overflowing with pain, James knew he couldn't let himself collapse in that moment. She was still standing before him, even though she didn't recognize who he was. Perhaps, deep within her heart, there'd been changes that he hadn't anticipated. But he wouldn't give up. He would keep fighting, even if only to reconnect with her, even if only to see the light in her eyes once again. Everything might change, but James's love for Tu Diep still hadn't faded. He would find a way to make her remember, and he wouldn't give up until she recognized him, until she remembered the love they had shared. The question remained. Would Tu Diep be ready to face the past, to confront what had happened, or would she continue living in a completely new world? Will Tu Diep be ready to face the past, with everything that has happened, or will she continue to live in a completely new world? That is a big question, one that even Tu Diep cannot answer at this moment. As the memories of the past slowly fade, and as she has chosen a new name for herself, a new life, has she truly given up everything that has happened, or is she just not brave enough to face the things that marked a part of her life? The days gone by felt like a nightmare to Tu Diep. She couldn't forget the pain, the hurt that life had brought. The memories of James, the moments of happiness with him, may have turned into ghosts in her mind, making it impossible for her to stand firm in the present. She had chosen to live a new life, to build a solid wall around herself to protect from the painful memories. The name Hoa, the name she gave herself, was a powerful change to forget the Tu Diep of the past. But can a new name really conceal everything? James stood there, silently watching her. Every step he took was a challenge. He knew that to win back this love, he had to accept that Tu Diep's past was no longer the same. He had to accept that she no longer remembered him, no longer loved him the way she once did. But what could he do when he himself could not forget her? Love is not something that can be forced or coerced. It is about willingness, sharing, and even sacrifice. He was ready for all of that, but would Tu Diep agree? James couldn't just stand there, staring at her. He decided not to give up, even though he knew this battle was not going to be easy. He wanted Tu Diep to remember. He wanted her to recognize what they had, what they could still have. He wanted her to know that no matter how much time passed, no matter how much she had changed, he was still here, waiting. But could he break through the wall she had built? Was there a way to help Tu Diep open her heart and return to the past, to help her see the love he still had for her, even though it had been buried in the months of separation? That was a question James couldn't answer right away. But he wouldn't give up, at least not until she found herself again, until she found the love that once belonged to them. Tu Diep looked at James, but her eyes no longer held the warmth they once did. She saw the pain in his eyes, and she knew that he still loved her, even though she had changed. But her feelings were completely different now. Every time she looked at him, she felt as though she were looking at a stranger. She couldn't remember the memories, the happy moments they had shared with James. Those emotions seemed to have vanished, as if they had never existed. Tu Diep began to feel the internal conflict within herself. She wanted to go back, to remember what had happened, but the thought terrified her. She was afraid that if she returned to the past, she would have to face the pain that had caused her to leave everything behind. Did she have the courage to face it all? She wondered if it had been a mistake to try to forget the past. Had building a new life really helped her avoid the pain, or was it simply a way to escape reality? Looking at James, she felt an intangible longing, a desire to return, but she dared not. Tu Diep realized that whether she wanted to or not, she could not escape her past. Those feelings, though hidden, still existed somewhere in her heart, like an inseparable part of herself. So, would Tu Diep be ready to return to James, to face what had happened between them? Could she leave the past behind and walk with him on a new path? Or would she continue to live in the world she had built, a world without James, without the old memories? The answer is still unclear. But one thing is certain. This encounter will be a turning point, not just for Tu Diep and James, but for everyone who has been waiting for this love story, where the past and the present collide, where love must face change, challenges, and important decisions.
Cô tự hỏi rằng liệu có phải mình đã sai khi cố gắng quên đi quá khứ? Liệu việc tạo dựng một cuộc sống mới có thực sự giúp cô tránh khỏi những tổn thương, hay chỉ là một cách trốn tránh thực tế? Khi nhìn vào James, cô cảm thấy một nỗi nhớ vô hình, một cảm giác muốn quay lại nhưng không dám. Từ việc nhận ra rằng dù muốn hay không, cô vẫn không thể thoát khỏi quá khứ của mình. Những tình cảm đó dù bị giấu kín vẫn tồn tại đâu đó trong trái tim cô, như một phần không thể thiếu của chính mình. Vậy thì Tử Diệp có sẵn sàng quay lại với James để đối diện với những gì xảy ra giữa họ? Liệu cô có thể quay lại quá khứ, sau lưng và tiếp tục đi cùng anh trên con đường mới, hay cô tiếp tục sống trong thế giới mà đã xây dựng một thế giới không có James, không có ký ức cũ xưa? Câu trả lời vẫn chưa rõ ràng, nhưng một điều chắc chắn rằng cuộc gặp gỡ này sẽ là một bước ngoặt không chỉ cho James và Tử Diệp, mà cho cả những ai đang chờ đợi câu chuyện tình yêu này, nơi mà quá khứ đã được hiện đại giao thoa, nơi mà tình yêu phải đối mặt với sự thay đổi, thử thách và những điều quan trọng nhất